Hi everyone. I've been in Australia for a month now and I have another month and a half to go. And I'll say this right out front, I'm feeling very happy. I feel very blessed that I get to do this at this stage of my life. I feel that it's a privilege to be able to just leave wherever home is and go travel somewhere for an extended period of time. And let me just say, every morning I wake up and I count my blessings and I feel so grateful. But I do have to say that there is something underneath all of that happiness that niggles at me a little bit. I think it's because it brings up certain relationships with stuff for me. And I thought it would be kind of interesting to discuss this. And of course, as always, hear your thoughts on that. Hi, my name is Raina. This is Small Retired Life. And on my channel, we talk about all things retirement, living our life in our 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. And if you're new, welcome here. When I say I've been feeling something a little bit melancholy and a little bit kind of niggly underneath all of that happiness, it really has to do with the topic of minimalism and stuff and decluttering stuff and getting rid of stuff and that huge topic. And so this is definitely not a video about travel tips or packing light and what to bring and what not to bring. This truly is a video about my reflections about the whole topic of minimalism. And essentially it stems, I think a lot of this stems from the fact that when you leave your home with nothing, it really makes you reevaluate your relationship with your things and your home and what's important, what's not important, and that type of thing. For me, this truly is a conversation with myself about the things that I have left behind and what those things mean to me, and also realizing that, you know, I'm lucky because I get to come back to those things. It's not like I have left them permanently. I'm only here for a total of 2.5 months. I came to Australia with pretty much nothing in my suitcase except for gifts. So when I got here, I had to purchase things that I was going to use here. I literally brought with me a pair of Lululemon shorts, a pair of Lululemon tights, and 3 white t-shirts and, you know, underwear. And that was it. I also didn't bring my cosmetics and I didn't bring any toiletries because I knew I could get them here. I just brought bag gifts for my family and I didn't want to be overweight on my luggage, so everything else was left behind. And let me just say that has been an experience and one that really did make me ponder about the whole concept of minimalism, who minimalism really applies to, because I think there's different meanings of the word. And also the relationship with things is really different. And it's especially different for people who have everything as opposed to people who maybe are struggling more financially. This really is not a minimalist manifesto of any kind, but more just, like I said before, my relationship with my things and the stories that perhaps we tell ourselves about owning less and having less. when I say that I came here with nothing, I truly did. Like, you know, I said I had a couple of t-shirts and some workout clothes, which I really didn't want to have to repurchase here and which pack very light. But I came with like no decorative items, literally no jewelry, just everything was down to the very bones of just what you stick in a suitcase. And I know a lot of people travel like that. A lot of people travel with very few things. But when you're staying put in one place for 2.5, almost 3 months, it really makes you evaluate stuff and how you use stuff, how you use clothes, and how you react to the things that are around you. I should also say that I am staying in the most soulless Airbnb I have ever stayed in. This place is maybe 500 square feet. February and March are the most expensive times to be in Melbourne. There is the Australian Open, there is the Formula One, and you know, I had people, or the Grand Prix, or whatever it is that they call it here, and I had people tell me last year, well, if you go a little further out, you know, the Airbnbs are better priced. And let me say, I looked and there was nothing better priced. And when I mean nothing, I mean there was maybe a difference of let's say a few $100s in staying in a really great location to staying a little further out. I also want to say that when I'm traveling here, I mean, I'm coming from a very cold country to a warm country, and I have no vehicle. I want to be able to go to the beach and go walking somewhere nice. I don't want to have to be constantly taking transit to get to places. So I don't mind paying a little bit more. But let me just say, my Airbnb is $4,900 a month, and it is absolutely bare bones. There's almost not enough pots and pans to cook in here. I had to go buy a frying pan. I just honestly, I'm not very happy about it, but it is what it is because that is the reality of this city. Now, practically speaking, I am absolutely fine. I love the area where I'm staying. I have great food to eat. I have been able to purchase a few items of clothing that will take me through the entirety of my trip. I'm doing things that I love to do. I'm walking along the ocean, which as far as I'm concerned is worth every penny I have, because these memories and these things that I'm doing give me so much joy. And those are the things, the experiences are the things that we actually will remember and will probably be glad that we spent our money on and that we did and that we experienced. That all being said, everything I need to function, I have here. I have enough clothes, enough food, enough space to function and to thrive in the environment that I'm in, which really forces the question of how many of my things that I have are there to actually sustain me as opposed to just simply reassure me. It's an interesting question if you think about it. How much of our stuff that we have is there to sustain us and to sustain our well-being and our ability to thrive? And how much of it is really there to reassure us that everything is good and that we're happy and that we can thrive to the best of our ability? There is definitely a lightness with traveling with less and or with having very little. There are no drawers to organize. There are less things to worry about and to keep clean and to fuss about. And there definitely is this feeling of freedom when I am here and I don't have very many things. Now, that being said, is part of that freedom and part of that well-being the lack of stuff? Or is it just understanding that, this is temporary and I'm actually going to go back to my regular life with all of my stuff at home? And so that feeling of well-being is a little bit artificial because I haven't really lost anything. I'm not lacking in anything because I get to go back to what I have. The question is, could I live like this for a very long-term period of time? Could I have a life where you just have a minuscule amount of objects and clothing and things that actually sustain your day-to-day? And this is kind of the story that we hear a lot of staunch minimalists talk about. Perhaps minimalism has changed its conversation and its meaning a little bit because people have realized that not everyone is willing to live with 100 things. But there is this concept of minimalism that, you don't need a lot of things. You can just exist on a very few things and you don't buy stuff. And often it's about not buying seconds and just only keeping the things that you're using. And there's a push to declutter. I mean, to a certain extent, I do it as well. I talk about simple living and how it's wonderful to have less stuff around you and how people can thrive more if there's less clutter. And there's definitely, I believe, still validity and truth to that, but it's kind of interesting to consider minimalism and the whole philosophy of minimalism a little bit more and go deeper into the topic. Minimalists definitely push the concept that owning less and having less means freedom, it means more clarity, that it somehow makes you a better person, and that you feel more peaceful and quieter and less chaotic. And I suppose there is some truth to that. And sometimes it definitely feels that way. I mean, I am experiencing it in real life. But I have to say, sometimes it just isn't that great. And, I think that one could get to a place where you're tired of the emptiness. Maybe some people, there's that rare unicorn that is perfectly happy with the nothingness. But I would argue that most of us just are not made like that. Here's something I didn't expect though, and that is that I miss my things. I miss my mugs, I miss my yarn, I miss my magazines, I miss my closet with my clothes in it. I miss how my home smells. I miss the cleanliness of my home. And a part of me berates itself for that because I feel like I should be over that. I should be a minimalist and I should have a certain level of non-attachment to things. And generally I do. I mean, I have no problem getting rid of things and decluttering and ensuring that I never have too many things around my house. But what has become truly evident to me while being here a little bit longer term is that my home and my things actually do mean a lot to me, and they make me feel more settled and a little bit more peaceful and happier. It's almost like it becomes the total picture. Whereas here, I'm happy and I love where I am, but it's not the total picture because I'm not surrounded by my things. And so, ergo, my things are important to me and I do miss my things. Even though maybe I don't have a lot of things, the things that I have are definitely important to me. What I am coming to realize is that missing my things does not make me materialistic. It just shows me that my life has a certain level of texture. There's not only my family life and the things that I do, but also the things that I have and the things that surround me are an important part of my environment. And that environment has multiple levels to it. And it also makes me realize that when we tell people just to declutter things and to get rid of things, people are actually struggling with changing the texture of their life by changing the things that are around them. And for some people, this is actually quite difficult to do. And so decluttering is not just about getting rid of stuff, because it truly is about getting rid of either memories or also the things that give you a certain level of security and that you've become habituated to seeing around you, and that give you a certain level of peace and make you almost feel the rightness of where you are and the rightness of your environment. I'm not sure if I'm explaining that well, but it's kind of the only way I can think of putting it. I think another way to think of it is that our objects aren't just objects, but there are anchors. So the mug that I use every morning, it's not just a mug. It's the mug that I use every single morning to put my coffee in. Or the sweater I'm wearing, it's not just about the material and what it's made of, and it's not just an object, but it's something that I like to wear and that I cozy up in to keep the cold away. So I think that when it comes to minimalists is they tend to depersonalize things, when in actual fact, I think people in general form connections to things, and things hold memories. They represent certain, not just functions, but also certain concepts of what home and rightness is all about. Minimalism often frames attachment as weakness, but in actual fact, attachment to our things can be continuity. It can be a feeling of stability. And when we discuss the idea of decluttering or throwing things away, getting rid of things, we have to consider the fact that when that is happening, we're actually causing a rift in that balance, and we're causing a rift in that continuity that people attach to their things. When you're traveling, you feel this thing that I'm talking about. You feel that kind of break in your continuity and your stability, because all of a sudden you're in this different environment and your things aren't with you. And even though you may be having a wonderful time and you're loving your trip and you're loving the fact that things are simpler because you don't have all your stuff, I often hear people say that they love their trip, but they're glad to be home. And it's because our home has our things and we're attached to the environment and just to the vibe and the spirit of the places that we live in and to the things that we own. The other thing that I've really been thinking about lately when it comes to minimalism, and it's kind of an uncomfortable thought, and that is that minimalism is often preached as a form of moral achievement, that if you are a minimalist and if you are able to live with fewer things and have less attachment, you are somehow morally better than someone who is not a minimalist. I don't like that idea at all, because to a certain extent, sometimes I believe minimalism is a bit of a privilege. I mean, You have to be at a certain place in life to be able to just get rid of things and to minimize and to be able to donate things or throw things away. Or if you're traveling like me, to be able to just not bring anything and then buy things once you get to a place. Because the fact is that, to me, that shows that there's a certain level of means. Now, I'm not talking about being rich. You don't have to be rich to be a minimalist. But I think you certainly need to be at a certain level of comfort and financial stability. Because sometimes people are minimalist because they're actually poor. They cannot go and buy stuff. They cannot sit there and talk about how wonderful and peaceful it is to not have stuff, because perhaps they have not experienced actually having a lot of things. There's a lot of people that are brought up in poverty, and just getting food on the table is a challenge. Never mind buying things that you can then later throw away and get rid of. Also, sometimes people that are in a financial struggle, they actually have more things around them because they are obligated to buy things, or it makes more sense for them to buy things and buy multiples of those things when they're at a lower price. So think about, the groceries. Like if you're buying groceries, if you have a family that you're feeding and your financial means are limited, you will have to buy more things when those things are on sale. For example, certain types of meat, or certain types of produce, or staples such as rice or toilet paper or dishwashing soap, or whatever else it is that we in our modern society use on a daily basis. When you have limited means, you have to take advantage of sales. And so you're having to store more things, and perhaps your home does look more cluttered because you have a smaller home anyways. And now you have to have more things in it because you're buying your things when it makes financial sense to buy them. For someone who is, a so-called minimalist, and they can live in an empty home and not have an excess of things because they're not worried about the price and the cost of certain items, they can just buy them whenever they want. And also, they can easily get rid of things because if by, oh my goodness, some accident you throw away or get rid of something that you will need at some point, you can repurchase it. So I think it's really easy for people to talk about minimalism, but in actual fact, there is a certain level of privilege that comes with being a minimalist, and to being able to get rid of things and give things away. Now, that is not an excuse for keeping garage full of items that you never ever use, you will never use, and things that your children have outgrown and that perhaps someone else can get a benefit of. This isn't what I'm talking about. It's more about the concept that I often see with minimalism. I can't even say that word. When it's talked about on YouTube or in articles or what have you, as being more confused with kind of a sparse aesthetic. I have a sparse aesthetic. That doesn't necessarily make me a minimalist, because minimalism, there's a lot more that encompasses that whole practice and the adoption of almost that philosophy of minimalism. But I just think that sometimes minimalism is discussed as a virtue, and it doesn't actually examine the fact that you can be virtuous and that you can be a minimalist is because you actually have a certain level of means and financial independence to be able to do that. So I don't know, I thought it was kind of important to talk about that part of minimalism and where it might actually not even consider or just almost omit the idea that sometimes people are not minimalist because they can't be. They need to be able to have the things and keep the things and buy the things at the right time and buy more of them because financially it makes more sense to do that. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Maybe have a conversation in the comment section. Just remember to stay kind. This also leads me to the concept that sometimes minimalism is all about performance. You know, it's that whole thing of look at how little I need to live with or I can live with. Like, look at me, I only have 100 things. And I find like extreme minimalists often tend to steer down that road where minimalism becomes more about almost a form of perfection that you then kind of hold over other people, and you actually almost become more virtuous because you can live with nothing. And I don't like that. Even when you think about like the Buddhist monks who truly do often live with nothing, they're not out there on YouTube talking about it. So I don't know. I just kind of find that interesting. What I am trying to do in my own personal life is to redefine what minimalism is. And minimalism is not having nothing or, you know, having fewer things, but it's more about being conscious of the things that you already have and enjoying and living and using the things that you already have, and then evaluating what part of your life is actual clutter. And I think that's the difference. To me, it's not about just getting rid of stuff and buying pretty containers to make your displays look nice and to have the perfect looking inside of a fridge or the perfect inside of a closet, and getting rid of all of your stuff and then repurchasing it at some point because you actually need it. It truly is about understanding the things that you have, why you have them, the value they bring into your life, and how important they actually are to your day-to-day. Traveling with hardly anything and being here in Australia without my things and with very few things actually was the impetus for me to think about this a little bit differently and to actually really think about what minimalism is to me and how it is talked about on YouTube, and you know what some of the negatives are of the conversation. So this is my topic for this week. Again, I guess I've been navel gazing a little bit, but I enjoy thinking about these topics because it makes me truly examine my own belief systems and my own views on things and kind of dig underneath some of these beliefs and where they're coming from. So this is it for this week. I will see you all next week at my regular time. Bye.